Hello, everybody, and welcome to DC Time. I'm Dean.
I'm Chris.
Thanks so much for joining us again. Hope you all had a good week. We've had a busy one, as I'm sure all you have too. But we're glad to get together again and do another show for you all. Chris kind of is throwing out some topics, and we're going to focus. We're going to read a little from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. We're going to talk some thoughts on love. Love is the main thing, we believe. As more we go along our journey, we're discovering, of course, that's the only thing. So we're going to highlight some of that. Maybe talk a little bit about knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge versus wisdom. There's so many different perspectives or ways to look at these things. But there's some interesting things that it makes you think. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're going to discuss. Of course, with knowledge, we're surrounded by it. We want that. We want to discover things. I ask something of you out there, or especially any of the ones that are the deep studiers and the scholars and the ones that we put up on the high levels as or scholarly type or whatever. Yeah, we want you to get the words right and get everything right. That to me, that's kind of like knowledge, gain knowledge.
Right.
But as you know, out there, it's without love, it doesn't even mean anything. And that's right there. Paul says that in 1 Corinthians. It's kind of amazing when he's talking about prophecy and knowledge, and these things are going to pass. And I think being a martyr, it says none of these things matter. Even you can have all these things, but without love, Paul's making. Well, let's just read it.
Yeah.
Why am I talking, Chris?
Well, no, I'm just thinking about what you're saying. I wanted to look before we got into that. Let me just
go ahead.
Let me just take us to because of the culture. I think our culture today kind of sets this up a little bit. Sure. Let's look at Ephesians 3:19. That says, "To know the love of Christ as well, which transcends knowledge, that you may be completed for the entire complement of God." So the love of Christ transcends knowledge. Okay, now let's go back to the selected verses we want to read from 1 Corinthians 13. 4, 8. You read 4 and 8, and I'll read 13 and 14.
All right. Love is patient, is kind. Love is not jealous. Love is not bragging. It is not puffed up. Down to 8, love is never lapsing. Yet whether prophecies, they will be discarded, or languages, they will cease, or knowledge, it will be discarded.
I'm going to read 13. Yet now are remaining faith, expectation, and love. These three. Yet the greatest of these is love. Be pursuing love. Now, this study came about because one of the apps on my phone, I'm able to put a word in and it brings up everywhere it's used in the Concordant Literal New Testament. So I was looking at the word love today. So it took me right, but Romans has it everywhere too. So there are, I'm not, by skipping some of these, we already know, love is not indecent, it's not self-seeking, all of those things, we went over them, but they're just as important. I'm not wanting to detract from any of that. My focus was looking at the word love, and all of those have the word love in them. Someone shared recently, I don't remember if it was this past conference or the one before, yet now are remaining faith, expectation, and love. And someone pointed out that later on, faith and expectation will fall away. Mm-hmm. Because, what is faith and expectation? Hope. And once it's here, we don't need expectation or faith. It's here now. We're living in it. So the only thing that remains is love.
There's interesting things even to back just a little bit. Even here in Corinthians, we're reading from Corinthians, but even here, you see transition as Paul completes the scriptures. You get into Ephesians, Colossians, you start seeing even a difference here. It's
Yes, I do. Yeah, most
because
definitely.
we don't really relate to the things about speaking in tongues and these things like that. We don't have a frame of reference. I mean, we might think we know something about it based on religion or how certain religions or denominations handle these things,
Right.
but we don't have any kind of relation to the things that was going on back during Paul's time when some of these things were written.
I
So
would
that's interesting too.
I would make the only point I would make that on that verse 8, he says, love is never lapsing, yet whether prophecies, they will be discarded, and languages, they will cease, or knowledge, it will be discarded. Now that one sticks out to me because our culture today still puts a high priority on knowledge. It's still, it's
Right.
of a high value, and I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But imagine a time in which knowledge will be discarded. I think that maturity is to some extent the discarding of prior knowledge in pursuit of greater knowledge. So when we grasp the love of Christ, it transcends knowledge. So even looking at this, that knowledge will be discarded, it took me in my mind to Ephesians 3:19, that the love of Christ will transcend knowledge. And then I don't have it now, but I was looking up the word wisdom on another daily email goodie that was in a book of Clyde's, and we could share those, if you wanted to, you can share those at the end or whatever, those descriptions of wisdom, because even wisdom and knowledge are different, and a couple of the guys gave some pretty neat descriptions of those two things. One of the things I was talking with Dean upstairs was about when we go to these conferences, when we see these people and we talk to them on the phone or we do a show with them on a video and stuff, it's so abundantly clear how quick these people are to step in when they see someone hurting, and they're edifying and lifting each other up. And when I read in 1 Corinthians 13, I sometimes wonder, and of course you think about yourself and what you do, and do others think that way? Does anybody else think as screwed up as I think? That type of thinking. But I think oftentimes we need to remind ourselves that we need to be able to love ourselves. We need to be able to cut ourselves a break. I think a lot of us will step right into a person's situation and provide empathy and love, and we're so quickly desiring to do that and to be that for another one, but something holds us back from ourselves, and I'm talking from experience. I will somehow change some of this sometimes to myself as if I'm in a different category, and I'm not. I don't know what exactly it is, but limitations. It becomes that limitation factor we talk about, where we need to cut ourselves a break. I mean, we are His achievement too.
Yep.
And we do need to learn how these scriptures apply to us as well.
That's a good point. At the conference, it reminded me, I think it was Stephen, I'm not sure, somebody during one of the talks made the statement that we and you, and whoever's out there we're talking to, but we are not the problem in God's plan. So I don't know.
I like
in a sense, everybody said it in their talks. Clyde's big picture look at the play and the actors and how we're all playing our part and things like that. But I think it was Stephen that might have said it. But anyway, you're not. So what Chris is talking about, yes, it is very important to realize more who we are, who God says we are in His scriptures, who's Paul telling us we are. To know that, to rest in that, to love yourself, give yourself a break, because it gets confusing. I said that last week when we see, I think it was last week or a couple weeks ago, or when you see the wreckage in our lives and in other people's lives, and then you see all the hurt and the pain and the suffering, and to me, I like calling it an illusion because it is. Because this love of Christ, to know the love of Christ, what we're talking about here, transcends knowledge. This, to me, the way I'm looking at it, it's just my kind of perspective. It does go to some other kind of level outside of us. It's a spirit thing. So there's glimpses of it, I believe now, that give us a taste of it. But most of the time when we're talking about love and knowledge and all these things, it's like Chris is, explaining too. Yeah, we're dealing in real time things. And sometimes we're so, we can love others, or we try to love others and help others, and then we don't even love ourselves. While we're, as Chris, is the point he's making there.
Yeah.
But this love of Christ, and when that hits, that spirit, the spirit of God himself that's in you, in us, in all his creation, when you see that or glimpse that, yeah, that's transcending. Then love is easy. It's just happening because it's a spirit thing.
Right.
So that's what we pray for you, for ourselves. I don't know any way to attain that, to get that, to work on that. If there is things, like I kind of alluded to even last week, can we do certain things? Hey, if there's things for you to do, I would just knock yourselves out. Not talking about law, putting law on it or anything like that, but everybody has their own perspectives on that.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, get in the scriptures to realize who you are, tap into this spirit that transcends knowledge. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, exactly. I can't add anything to that.
It's good stuff. Let's we're about done here.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let me read some of this again. I'm gonna replace the word. I like doing this. All right. We'll start in 4 again. And since we know that God is love,
1 John 4:8.
that's what he is.
Yep.
And we're all on our journey, on our way to transformation into this love, into another realm, into another being. We're on our way on that. So since he is love, we'll replace love just with him. So we'll say God, or say Father. Call him Father, is patient. Father is kind. Father's not jealous. Father doesn't brag. He's not puffed up, not indecent, not self-seeking, not taking account of evils, not rejoicing in injustice, yet is rejoicing together with the truth, foregoing all, believing all, expecting all, enduring all. That's what God's doing. That's what Father's doing. That's what he's up to. Father is never lapsing. So I like that.
Yeah,
I like reading
good.
that, and I like thinking of that this is describing God, these things here, this love. And then, so tapping into that, like I said, the old religious way of thinking is like you beat yourselves up. You do the thing like you said. We beat ourselves like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and then, well, we'll just see. We'll see here in just probably before you here in a few minutes. We'll see like, oh, well, where am I at in here? Or that doesn't seem like love, or that's coming out of me right now. It's not patience, or I'm not bearing. I'm not doing these things that we want to do all the time.
Right. I appreciate you talked about reading from Ephesians and hearing in it a maturity. We just talked about how Paul leans into the love aspect in here. And we think 1 Corinthians is an early book of Paul's. And, he even speaks about being a minor here, and coming into maturity. That this is all out of an installment of revelation or realization for Paul. So that also makes sense to me why knowledge can be discarded when it is used up for its purpose.
Right. Right.
So
good points. Something to think about. We'll probably stay on this, maybe.
Yeah. Never know.
A little bit. So, all right. Well, we love you all and hope you have a good week.
Quick dad joke before we leave. Do you know what you call 2 lovebirds? Tweethearts.
That's a good one. See you next time.